Welcome to another episode of Mastering Cybersecurity, developed by baremetalcyber.com. Let's dive in. 3 plain principles guide ZTA and translate cleanly into daily practice. The first is explicit verification, which means access is granted only after checking identity, device posture, location, time, and the resource's sensitivity. The second is least privilege, which means giving only the specific permissions a task requires, with no extras that could be misused later. The third is assume breach, which means designing controls as if an attacker already has a foothold and must be contained. These principles reduce risk by narrowing pathways, adding fresh checks at decision time, and limiting how far an attacker can move. When these ideas show up together, security becomes a repeatable process rather than a one-time setup. The result is fewer surprises and faster recovery when issues occur. In ZTA, identity becomes the new perimeter because people and services request access from anywhere. Start with strong authentication so users prove who they are with something they know, something they have, or something they are. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, adds a second factor like a hardware key or an app prompt, which defeats many common phishing attempts. Single sign-on, or SSO, reduces password sprawl and centralizes policy, so one place can evaluate conditions before issuing short-lived tokens. Modern systems also look at context, such as geolocation, time of day, recent behavior, and whether the request pattern seems normal for that person. By tying access to a verified identity and rich context, ZTA decisions become specific, timely, and reversible when risk rises unexpectedly. Least privilege takes the idea of small doors and applies it to every permission. Roles can group common tasks, like read-only reporting or billing administration, while attribute-based rules consider details such as department, project, or location. Just-in-time access grants elevated rights for a short window with an approval that is recorded, so powerful permissions do not linger unnoticed. Expiring approvals and short token lifetimes reduce the value of stolen credentials because they stop working quickly. Every change to access should leave an evidence trail, including who requested, who approved, what was granted, when it ended, and where it is documented. This record supports accountability, helps investigations move faster, and allows auditors to test that the process works. Keeping access small, short, and visible reduces both mistakes and misuse. Clear policies and consistent enforcement make ZTA decisions repeatable and fair. A policy engine, or PE, evaluates inputs such as identity, device health, location, time, resource classification, and live risk scores to decide whether to allow, deny, or step up verification. A policy administrator, or PA, translates those decisions into specific actions, such as creating a session token or pushing a configuration change to a gateway. Policy enforcement points, or PEP, sit where traffic or requests actually flow, like application gateways, reverse proxies, or agents, and they carry out the PE's decision in real time. When these roles are clear, policies can be tested, approved, versioned, and rolled back safely. This separation allows teams to improve rules without breaking running systems, which supports steady progress. ZTA protects data by making it the center of decisions, not an afterthought. Classifying data helps systems understand what needs tight control versus what can be shared broadly, which keeps scarce attention on the most valuable assets. Encryption in transit and at rest reduces exposure if traffic is observed or storage is accessed improperly. Short-lived, scoped tokens limit what an application or script can do, so even a leaked token has narrow, temporary power. Service accounts should use the same least privilege ideas as human users, because automation can be misused as easily as a person. Data minimization also matters, meaning systems collect and keep only what they truly need for their purpose. When less sensitive data exists, risk naturally shrinks and incident impact becomes easier to manage. Continuous monitoring turns ZTA from a design on paper into a living system that adapts to change. Telemetry from identity providers, device managers, application logs, and network gateways forms a timeline that explains who did what, from where, and with which approvals. Behavior analytics can spot odd patterns, such as a finance user downloading engineering archives, which may be a mistake or an attack. When risk rises, policies can require additional verification, reduce entitlements, or revoke sessions automatically to limit exposure. These actions should be logged and explained so teams can review decisions and tune thresholds without guesswork. Feedback from incidents, drills, and audits feeds back into policies to make the system smarter. Over time, this loop builds trust in the process and confidence in the outcomes. ZTA differs from the old perimeter model and from marketing shortcuts that promise instant results. Traditional perimeter security trusts anything inside the network and inspects mainly at the edge, which breaks down when work and systems live everywhere. ZTA evaluates each request with fresh context and does not assume safety based on location alone. It is also not a single product purchase or a full removal of virtual private networks overnight. Tools can help, but the value comes from clear policies, short-lived tokens, and consistent enforcement across many components. Some environments will still use a VPN for specific uses, with ZTA controls layered around it. The key difference is that trust is earned continuously, not granted by default. Adopting ZTA works best as a series of small, purposeful steps rather than a sweeping overhaul. Start by making an honest inventory of identities, devices, applications, and data because unknown assets cannot be protected. Identify a few crown jewel systems where misuse would truly hurt and map the common paths people take to reach them today. Choose one high-value access path, such as administrators reaching a finance system, and redesign it with strong identity checks, device posture, and short-lived tokens. Measure approvals, failures, and user friction, then tune policies before expanding to the next path. Common pitfalls include unclear ownership, vague policies, and granting permanent exceptions that become invisible risks. Clear roles, tested changes, and visible results keep momentum moving in the right direction. Remote access to a software-as-a-service application shows ZTA ideas in a familiar situation. A sales employee signs in through SSO with MFA, receives a short-lived token scoped to the sales app, and reaches it only if their laptop passes posture checks. If the login comes from a new country or a risky network, the policy engine can request an extra verification step or limit actions to read-only until reviewed. Downloading a large report after midnight might trigger additional checks or alert a review queue. Every step leaves a log entry that ties identity, device, resource, and decision together for later review. If the laptop falls out of compliance during the session, access can pause until it returns to a healthy state. This flow balances flexibility with control. A legacy data center application can still gain ZTA benefits without a full rewrite. Place a policy enforcement point in front of the app so access flows through SSO with MFA and device posture checks before any connection reaches the server. Use network segmentation to isolate the app from unrelated systems, allowing only its required databases or services through clearly defined rules. Replace shared administrator passwords with a privileged access workflow that checks approvals and issues time-boxed credentials. If the application protocol cannot carry short-lived tokens, wrap the connection with a gateway that handles session control and logs activity. Gradual steps like these reduce risk while teams plan longer-term modernization. Even small controls around the app can meaningfully reduce the chance and impact of incidents. Zero-trust architecture succeeds when policies are clear, evidence is recorded, and exceptions are rare and temporary. Teams should document who owns each policy, how changes are reviewed, and where logs and approvals are stored, so the process remains understandable as it grows. Training should focus on why checks exist and how they protect both people and data, which helps reduce friction when conditions require an extra step. Regular reviews of telemetry and incidents keep policies grounded in reality rather than guesswork. When people can see that controls adapt to risk and end quickly after tasks complete, support increases. Over time, steady improvements replace implicit trust with earned trust, one access path at a time. This approach builds resilience without demanding perfection on day one. The point of ZTA is a lasting shift from trusting locations to evaluating every request in context. Identity, device posture, least privilege, segmentation, clear policies, and continuous monitoring work together to make access decisions smaller, smarter, and easier to reverse. You can start anywhere with visibility, apply controls to one important path, and then extend the pattern steadily across the environment. As policies mature and tokens shorten, misuse has less room to spread and issues become simpler to contain. Progress is measured in fewer surprises, faster investigations, and clearer evidence of good decisions. With patience and consistency, zero-trust architecture turns a complex environment into a system that fails smaller and recovers faster. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.